All right, happy Sunday. We're back with Retake the Week, and hopefully we got slightly better sound control in this room. It's still incredibly empty, but I've got a little bit of a backdrop creating a little bit of a smaller space. So hopefully we got a better episode for you. Of course, joining me is Quacke, and it's been a big week in Counter-Strike, hasn't it? We've had a massive event. A certain prodigy has come flying in and really impressed everyone. It's not been a disappointing start. It's not been a letdown. He's looked absolutely phenomenal, this donk kid, hasn't he?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Isaac. No, but yeah, it's been
Oh, yeah.
it's been it's been a big week. I've been writing a lot. I've basically had Dust 2 for myself this week because I've been putting out the articles. And there's been a lot to write about in terms of Katowice and also in other things, but like Katowice is the big thing. If that's maybe where we're gonna start off. We're recording this the morning of the Sunday, so the final is happening in about 6 hours or so. It's going to be a best of 5 between Spirit, which is just Donk, and FaZe.
We'll get to that.
It's not just Donk. It's not just Donk, but like, I mean, okay. So the question we all have on our mind is, can Donk beat the final boss? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
So far, he's cleared every hurdle so far, but now he's probably got like. This is probably the hardest game Donk has ever played in his life. It's his second arena game. It's a best of 5 against FaZe in the Spodek arena. Like, this is the biggest game of Donk's life so far. If he beats this, he's proved himself as a player. I'll just say that.
No, it's an interesting prospect for him because, yeah, he's just shot right up. Sure, he's already technically played a best of 5, he's technically already played a tier 1 LAN, but it's not the same. Obviously, this is his first prestige event, this is the first real big one, and he has so far smashed it. I think watching the group stages, I was like, yeah, I've seen this before. I've seen this entire story painted out. I mean, the fact that he could do it against FaZe was impressive, but honestly unsurprising because he is really that talented and that skilled. But then to watch him yesterday in the semi-final make it look easy against such an experienced team on the big stage. And I believe it was Maui Snake who correctly pointed out, at this point, is the big stage a myth? Like, he was tweeting about it, he's like, at this point, we've had more players just show up to their massive first-time event in front of a huge crowd and just be fine, that it might just be a really specific case-by-case thing, that it's not a big deal to be on the big stage, just certain players can't handle it at all. Like, certain players just don't deal with that sort of stress at all. So perhaps we've been overblowing it, but I do think it's still impressive to have done it so soon. I think the grand final is going to be, well, I think the grand final is going to be a 3-0 in either direction. I think either Donk blows him out of the water, or FaZe have such a good answer to him that Spirit are shut down, because Spirit would then need to find plan B. If Donk can't get you openings on like 25% as T rounds and then make them triple kills as well, like if he's not doing that, what is your other plan? Like, I hope there is one, but I doubt there is one that's as successful as having the best player on the server smash everyone's heads in. It's not going to be replicable.
I could see it being a 3-2, because even if FaZe have a good counter, I think they might not have it on all 5, like on all maps. Spirit are still gonna have like 2, in theory, advantageous picks. So I haven't looked at the actual map pool, so I'm not sure what that could be. But I feel like both teams have like maps that they are specifically strong on. Like Mirage is one of Spirit's very, very strong maps for Donk. So I feel like FaZe might like shut down Spirit on maps like Nuke, Overpass as well. I feel like it's a FaZe map. Maybe that's an old opinion from a previous FaZe team, but this I feel like there's a universe where FaZe could shut down Donk on 3 maps, but then he wrecks on another 2. So we'll see. It's going to be a big game. It's probably like, okay, ahead of time, I'm all about the storyline, but like ahead of time, this could be one of the best Katowice finals we've ever had. Obviously, we don't know how the game actually turns out, but in terms of like the pre-game narrative and everything, that's sort of how I feel about it. It's I'm very excited.
Yeah, the hype
about
is
this
there.
game.
Map wise, I know we're not seeing Inferno. Spirit have been vetoing it against most teams, especially going to ban it against FaZe. And then I think FaZe have choice in terms of where they take their ban, because they're not going to ban Mirage, they're not going to ban Nuke, even though Spirit beat them on it. I think they still want to play Ancient and Anubis as well. So it's between Overpass and Vertigo. They've been banning Vertigo more. I I think they keep it standard and just try to win on the maps they've basically just been playing. So we'll try and see them. They'll try to take a map like Mirage off a Spirit who are feeling confident on it. Maybe try and fix what went wrong on Nuke, and then hopefully catch them out on like an Anubis. Probably not going to beat them on Ancient, even though their win rate is only 67% for Spirit. They've looked so good on it this event. I wouldn't really pick anyone to beat them on it. But I think there's 3 maps where FaZe will be looking to win. I just think if you get down, like if it's a 1-1 or you start seeing Donk like heat up, I don't think FaZe stand much of a chance at that point. So they have to just keep them cold, start to finish. That's going to be rough. It's going to be real rough.
Yeah, Spirit's Ancient is... They've played 5 maps in Katowice, so there was 2 in the play-in and 3 in the actual main event. Single digits in 4 of them, including the 13-0 against Apex. And they won all 5, so... Yeah, I wouldn't go on Ancient. But that's sort of what I mean. Like, Spirit probably should take Mirage if we come to that. I think we will probably come to Mirage.
What's the 5th?
Yeah, could be the 5th in that case. But yeah, like it's obviously it's very interesting, of course, because Spirit and FaZe have already played the ones in this event, and Spirit won. Well, they won Nuke quite comfortably.
Yeah, that's a big concern if you're FaZe. Like, Nuke is supposed to be a map they don't really play, and you picked it into them and they smashed you. So I'm a little scared if I'm FaZe. Like, there's probably, again, major flaws they address coming into this game, like things that just weren't working, things that were off, because I know Donk is good, but it's your map pick, you're an elite team, you clearly fucked some stuff up if he beats you that badly. So I think they're going to address a lot of stuff, but we're going to fixate on Spirit, I think, a lot in the coming weeks. Let's quickly have a talk about one team that were massively disappointed. So I want to just talk about this quickly. Vitality going out in groups, I don't think was on anyone's bingo card. They were the favourite pick of the viewers on the double swing. I believe I picked them as one of my favourites, because how could you not have them making at least top 4? So the fact that they go out in straight series, losing 2-1 to Ents and then 2-1 to Heroic, it's going to be a tough one to come back from. It's going to be rough for the mental. I'm not sure what to exactly pin it on, though, and I was hoping you might have some insight, maybe a narrative to feed me, because in the game it just seemed like just an off week, an off couple days, but what else is going on?
I think they had, in a way, of course, Ents and Heroic, they're teams that Vitality should beat, but I think they're, at least going into 2024, I think they are still a tough, like 2 tough teams to be playing against. I feel like they sit right in the area where they obviously can do good stuff. Ents went to playoffs, and I mean, just look at the Heroic roster and you will see like the quality of the players who are there, and there are also new rosters that are probably pretty hard to prep for. Like, just in theory, how do you prep for the 9 core led by Glaive? Like, just on paper, how do you prep for that? It's weird. They didn't really play much. The maps they did play were pretty poor. Like, Ents, they missed the RMR in all of the in the close qualifier, I think. Sorry, no, they missed another thing. There was some qualifier that they just flat out missed completely, and I can't remember what it was, but it was disappointing. I might just be confusing them with the new 9 lineup now. But all right, either way.
I think you are, because they haven't really played many qualifiers, and they're directly going to the RMR, so I don't know.
Yeah,
in any case, you are correct. They are tough to have prepped for, because, yes, they've played nothing until they played the Katowice play-in. There's nothing really there. If you look for demos, if you look for intel, you know how you're probably going to get a slightly more 9-esque sort of gameplay, so you can somewhat prepare for that. You know Hades' tendencies as he's coming into his own as an AWPer. You know how he's going to like to approach certain fights. Really loving his development, by the way. That's been awesome, from Wisla Krakow to OG to this. But I think, Vitality should be massively disappointed. I mean, I know the Heroic series was close as anything, really. They lost the 2 maps in overtime. They won their map 13-11, the one they won. It's not like a blowout. It's not devastating, but you'd expect more from a team with these names. And I think they've got to really reflect and figure out what the hell went wrong, because they should be doing much better at prestige events than this.
I mean, Heroic as well, tough team to prep for because you have a new coach IGL combo, Saw and Kixen, and it's sort of a Frankenstein roster because you had two players remaining who probably don't even impact the overall macro too much, like Tessus and Shush. How much are they really going to bring out of Cadian and Exist this game into this roster? Probably not too much. Then you have an Ends player. Then you have Nikolos. I'm almost forgetting. He's from Parisi. Like you have a Parisi / Fnatic player coming in here, like as his most
Yeah.
two recent teams, and an Apex IGL. So it's like, of course, they did play a couple of maps against Cloud9 and Big in the Blast groups, which was mid, and they also played the Open Qualifier, which is not exactly a demo. I'd imagine you'd used to prep for an event like this. So it must have been hard to prep for. So like out of all of those teams in like the middle layer where Vitality are the favorites, but like I think Ems and Heroic might be two of the more dangerous ones. If Vitality were to play against Monty in one of these games, Vitality probably win, I'd say, because that's a roster that you sort of know what you're getting. But in this case, I think it was difficult. I think it was difficult. Of course, Vitality still should have won. It's a failure, but I wouldn't say it's like spells the end of their 2024 campaign or something like that. I wouldn't say
no.
I wouldn't say it's like a massive loss, as it otherwise might have been. So, I mean, Ends beat G2 in the end, just in the next game. So, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's for me. I think it does have to be considered massive. I think you are a major winning side. You should be a prestige event winning side. You should be winning this. I think it's disappointing for Rogue though. Just on side note, we've talked about this briefly off the air, just in DMs. Like the fact that top 8 isn't a playoff team, like at Katowice, is starting to get on my nerves. 16 playoffs, like what are we doing? This is getting so odd. Like we have these huge events. Like I don't care if you do it at IM Chengdu, but this is a really huge like moment. Like why are we not allowing teams that win 2 best of 3s in groups to go play a game in the arena? That seems a bit off. I get it, esports ain't profitable, but it never has been. So I think, cut back on your fucking flights to China and make Katowice a little better. It's my take on the situation. What do I know about running events? Let's wrap up Katowice and move on to the CS2 update, because it kind of impacted Katowice. It happened in between the group stage and the playoffs, and the teams voted and agreed to implement it. I think just based off the idea that it would impact Peak's advantage. That was the big selling point for a lot of people. You saw a lot of talk about that online. And now, personally, I was too fixated on the Zeus skin to really give a toss initially, because I think that thing is awesome and I want it immediately in StatTrack. But I saw a lot of chatter about how it would impact specifically Donk, and honestly, most of it seemed ridiculous to me. As someone who's actually watched Donk demos, sure, the scary highlight is him when he wide swings an AWPer and headshots him. As someone who's watched a lot of AWPer's demos, everyone can do that. If you're pre-aiming the line and wide swing, it's Counter-Strike. That's been a thing forever. So I'm not really that worried. And even in the highlight reels that we got from the Katowice group stage, there's him holding angles, people wide swinging him, and him getting a double kill. It's like, why was anyone worried about his level of play after this? It's just completely a non-factor to me. I think a lot of people said the game feels better, and I'm sure it's been an improvement to the overall gameplay. But I didn't see why this would magically make Donk anything less than what he was.
No, that was just silly. I didn't put much stock in that. I think the Peaker's advantage is improved. I remember, I think Monacy said that just immediately after the update dropped. It was that thing. I talked to you about this thing off the air. It was ESL put out a 2-hour round table discussion with the playoff teams, which was awesome. But when they talked to Nico and Monacy, Nico said, "Yeah, I went to the prac room at 2:30, and Monacy was there playing pugs." Like it's what he was doing was when the update dropped, he just instantly hopped in and tested the Peaker's advantage, and yeah, he did feel it was like a bit better. I mean, it's difficult if you put Peaker's advantage is improved by 16 milliseconds in the patch notes. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. People are going to believe it because it might as well just be placebo. But
yeah, it's a little bit better than placebo. I've seen the screenshot comparisons of exactly how much you see more when a guy swings you.
Yep.
And it's got clearly an effect, but yes, there is an element of that where you're like, oh, yeah, we've definitely fixed it. So everyone goes, oh, you fixed it? And immediately it feels better, because so much of our game is the mental, how you feel in the game, how you think the game's responding to your play. I can see why you'd say it's just a placebo effect, even though it is, tangible, measurable, statistically. Like there'll be probably a 3 clicks Philip video where he shows off the exact screenshots, and then does a massive thing about it, and it's very precise and well explained, but ultimately a bit boring. So
if there was an update with no patch notes and people started saying, "Wow, the game suddenly feels better," and then 4 days later they dropped the patch notes, I would definitely believe it. At this point, there probably is a difference. Like I have no doubt they probably have improved the game, but the thing is, if they improve I just think if they improved the game and didn't tell anyone about it, no one would think it was better. But if they didn't improve the game and told people that they did, people would think it was better. Like this is. We don't know. We don't know how fucking games work. We're just players. Like so. Yeah. I don't think it impacted the playoffs at all. It definitely didn't impact Donk. I think the switch ahead of playoffs. A lot of people thought this was wrong. I know Hooksy was very critical on Twitter about dropping the update when they did. I think it was the correct decision. We have the RMR coming up on Wednesday already, and that effectively means players are going to have no time to practice on the new update because at least 3 of the Katowice playoff teams, I believe, are playing on Wednesday. At which point they have about 3 days to go from Katowice to Bucharest, and then there's a media day, and like it just was never going to happen. So making the switch, I think, was the right decision, for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I do obviously dislike the idea, but in practicalities, realistically, where we are with how extended our major cycle is, and how many teams there are that actually matter now in the early stages of the RMR. Like, if you're talking about this, like the RMR, the early stages of the major, I mean, this used to be something none of us followed in like 2016. None of us even knew existed. Like, sure, there was local like outlets maybe following their local teams, but this wasn't a big deal. You didn't have this on front page HLTV, big discussions, fancy teams. Like, no one cared about this stage of qualification. Because to be fair, the major qualifier was still the major qualifier, not the opening of the major. So this was like the pre-qualifier. So now that it's a big deal, you kind of have to do it properly. So I think fair enough, Valve telling ESL essentially our event's more important than yours in that sense, and going ahead with it. So I like it. I like this. Honestly, I kind of thought some of the skins were pretty sick. So that's just a side note. Especially
I love the AWP.
Obviously. The AWP. I kind of like the AK. Like I think it's a good update, and hopefully it'll bring back some of our...
Should we mention the sticker crafts? No, let's not mention the sticker crafts.
The sticker crafts are silly. Like, obviously, people have started making dicks and whatever, and then, of course, the next step is people making swastikas and whatnot, and it's kind of expected, and I don't think it's a reason to remove the update, as I saw some children crying for on Twitter. People have been able to name themselves anything for, like, decades, and we have a very simple system. If it's offensive to you, you report them, they get muted and it's hidden, and then someone does something about it if it's really a problem. You can do the same thing with guns, just add a fucking menu in the a tick box in the report menu. It's not that big a deal.
I'm not even sure you need a tick box in the report menu, because I think this, like, having something like this in your inventory could qualify as having an offensive profile, which is what the report option said. So I'm very curious to see if they actually start handing out bans for this. But what I will say,
if a big enough outlet picks it up and gets outraged about it, or like the mainstream decides they're going to shove their fat nose in our game again, then they'll probably react to it and reactively like ban a bunch of people, then forget about it. Something like that. You know how it is.
I'm just going to ask, are you going to do a KingT craft on one of your guns? Like spell out KingT with signatures?
Probably not. I've got better things to do in the coming weeks, I'm going to be honest. I've got like a whole bunch of stuff to take care of first. I've not played a game of Counter-Strike in like 2 weeks at this point. I'm miserable. No, I'm joking. I'm not miserable. I've got a new flat. It's great.
Your life is better than ever. Yeah.
Life's been getting better, really. But like, I've not played any Counter-Strike. I'm loving it. I haven't been called a bunch of offensive slurs by a Russian kid in so long. I miss it. I miss it. I can abuse decks.
In the comments, guys. In the comments.
Yeah, please. Someone shout about me being Amerikansky or something. Like, it's been so long. But all right, we've got a bit more of a serious topic, and this is the kind of topic where I like to let you just go off, because you're going to be the most informed out of both of us, and you're going to know all the good details. So this is something you put in the show notes, which I love, because yesterday I'm on the train home, coming back from a concert. I see RCL. And I get confused, and I message you, and you start going off. So I'm assuming not everyone knows about this. So please, Quack, explain to us in glorious detail, what on earth is RCL?
I didn't know about this until yesterday either. But the RCL, I'm going to say what it stands for in a minute, which is going to make the whole story a bit more silly. But the RCL, it is an online event that was set to start tomorrow, which had a lot of the tier 2 European teams qualified or invited. Like 4 of the big team academies. There was Ens Academy, Astralis Talent, Mouse NXT, and Big Academy. They were invited and had accepted the invite. They were supposed to attend the event. Godsent was there. Alliance was there. A couple of more teams. 500 were also supposed to attend. And on Thursday, I didn't notice this until yesterday, but on Thursday, there's a Ukrainian news site called Players that published an article, basically an investigation into this event. And it turns out it is hosted by the Russian Esports Federation, which is the national, as in government-tied, federation for esports in Russia. It's to the point. It's to the point where the boss of the RESF, in an interview, said that, you know what we should do? We should make special regiments in the Russian military where esports players can serve their country in the war and also compete at the same time. It is they have a personally signed letter giving them permission to host events by Vladimir Putin. This is it is the Russian state hosting this event. So yesterday, kind of started by this player's site and a bunch of Ukrainian and otherwise influencers. We all know Petrick. He's showed up a bunch of times recently. Banks as well, obviously very passionate about Ukraine. And he as well. Basically, this whole storm on Twitter about how teams should be pulling out of this event. And as soon as people read this article, of course, teams started pulling out. Some of the early ones, all of the big academies pulled out already. Alliance pulled out. Whoever else was set to attend already pulled out of the event. Godsent, TSM. So yeah, good on them. Big respect to the guys for pulling out of the event. And they started sending out new invites immediately when people started pulling out. Nobody accepted it, of course. They'd read all the news. So yeah, kudos to them. And the event is now cancelled. It was set to start today, but it's now completely cancelled. But then Zeves, manager of Medisport, pointed out a very interesting thing, which I didn't think about this at first, but why the fuck did they accept it in the first place? Do they not look into what events they're supposed to play? He said, Medisport got an invite. He's the sporting director of Medisport. Medisport received an invite. He just looked at it briefly and just said, holy fuck, this is the Russian government inviting us to an event. No fucking thank you. But so did no one else do this? Did they just click accept? It was
probably
really, it was really strange to read about. And once you put that on the table, I'm yeah, that's really fucking stupid to just do that. It's not even a big event. Surely you do some background checking on who you're inviting. So all in all, it's just stupid. And I will now say what RCL stands for, just to show really how stupid, how little due diligence you have to do to figure out what this is. RCL stands for Russian Cyber League. Every European team accepted an invite to Russian Cyber League and just didn't think twice about it until, someone pointed it out.
It feels so silly, but there's a cynical part of me that's just they knew. They know. It's just they thought no one would care, and they thought they could just grab some prize money, some ranking points, keep grinding their way up. That's essentially, I think, what happened. I'm sure they're not that daft that they had no idea this was Russian connected. And what, the RESF? Ah, yes, I love RESF. They're my favorite type of fry. They definitely knew something was going on that was connected to Russia. It's not subtle.
Yep.
They just thought they could get away with it. They just thought no one would notice. It's a tiny event. As long as a big, Ukrainian person doesn't notice it or point it out, we'll be all right. We'll just take the money, if we win any, take the ranking points that hopefully this gets us, and get along with it and just move on. But yeah, Once it gets pointed out, you can no longer hide behind the thin veil of ignorance, which under UK law is not even a defence. So yeah, sucks. Shouldn't have accepted those in the first place. And glad it actually got cancelled as appropriate. Let's be honest, it should not have been running. So that was RCL. That was essentially what you explained to me last night, and I sat there just what a silly mess. What a silly mess we're in.
It's a silly mess. Yep.
Yeah, amateurish, so amateurish. But now we've got a bit of a new segment. We've got a new idea for a segment. This is going to be a draft. We're obviously taking inspiration from a lot of sports-based podcasts that love to do this, but I thought, hey, this is a perfect time to do this. It's a perfect format as well. So this is the idea. We're going to be drafting 5-man lineups consisting of an IGL, a lurk, an entry, an anchor, and an AWP. We're going to be using our own kind of semi-defined terms for these roles. It's not going to be as explicit as probably some of you might expect, but it's going to be some kind of dream team, obviously. But we're picking players from teams that have won Katowice, and you are limited on your team to one player from each winning lineup. So, for example, you can only take one player from Fnatic in 2015, but you can take another Fnatic player if you pick one from Fnatic 2016 or 2018. So you are not limited to the org, it's just winning rosters year by year. And the draft is going to go in a simple, one pick, two pick, two pick, two pick, one pick, sort of format. So until we have 5 players. And I'm going to take first pick because I said so. I think that's the best way to do it. I would do rock, paper, scissors over the internet, but then we could just cheat because of latency. So I'm just going to take first pick. And obviously the number 1 pick in any draft, when you can have him. I'm taking Simple from 2020 Na'Vi. Is there a better pick on the board? No, I refuse to hear it. Otherwise, that's my AWP role filled. Give me Simple.
Yeah, my good pick. I mean, okay, he's probably the greatest player in the world.
In the prime of his powers as well.
Yeah, I think I have a pretty good motivation for who I was thinking of picking. Simple was my alternate pick. Mm-hmm. All right, Simple was my alternate pick. So I'm happy to give you Simple. Event was obviously amazing. My pick, I'm gonna pick the AWP as well then, just to balance this out for you. My pick for the AWP is JW. Nobody else in the world has won Katowice thrice.
Which year? Which year are you picking JW from?
I need to pick the year. Well, I guess 2015 JW in that case.
Yeah. Okay.
And clarification, okay. I think Flusha also won it thrice since he was also on all of those Fnatic lineups or Crims or whoever. Point being, no other AWP has done it. And he also won it back-to-back, 2015, 16, and 18. So yeah, JW is my pick for the AWP. I'm picking 2015 JW, Prime JW. Let's fucking go. Let's get started.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, I dig it. I think forgotten in history are the Fnatic lineups of that era. I think a lot of people wouldn't have immediately thought of that, but I was straight on that. I was on my list. I was like, yeah, sure, they're not my first pick, especially not there. You can't be, but you got to take them. So now you've got your second pick because we give you back-to-back picks as you went second. Who are you taking?
All right, I'll go for the other pick that I sort of had. I think a lock-in pick for this draft is for my lurk spot. I am picking 2022 Rops, and
okay.
Honestly, for me, I didn't have many other options. I feel like lurk is difficult to define on some of the other rosters that I've won. It's sort of hard for me to pick. Like let's say 2020 Na'Vi. Is Electronic the lurk, or is Perfecto the lurk, or is Electronic the entry? Kind of hard to pick.
I'll tell you what, Electronic's the entry on that team.
Yeah, but he also plays a lot of space making, he roaming around. He does play a bit of a lurky style, or on that team he definitely did play a bit of a lurky style. So, but I'm taking Robs 2022. I think Robs in general is one of the better lurks as we define the term in the world.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
I think it's a solid pick, but I think you've left so much on the table. I wouldn't have had Robs up there so early, so thank you for selling. I'll take Nico 2023 on the entry. Why not pair the greatest CSGO rifler as well with the greatest CSGO player? So far so good. And I'm also going to take my IGL pick, and I'm going to take Karrigan from 2022. So
yeah,
Karrigan, Simple, and Nico. It couldn't get much better. Back over to you. 2 picks. Catch up.
All right. I might throw out a slight bit of a wild pick here. I have 2. I'm sort of alternating between them, but as I have back-to-back picks now, so I'm going to start with my IGL. I am picking 2018 Golden. That's my pick for IGL. I think Golden is a grossly underrated IGL. Always has been. I think he never got the shot that he deserved in Tier 1. And winning Katowice in 2018 as your first big LAN win with at that point a pretty old Fnatic roster. That was already 3 years past their prime. Like it was 2 or 3 years past their prime as a team, so
Yeah.
that's phenomenal. It's more that I think Golden in general is so underrated more than just 2018 Golden in particular, but he won in 2018, so yeah, I'm picking Golden. As my other pick, I am now going to go for an anchor player, and I am going for Magisk, 2019 Magisk as my anchor player. And yeah.
Okay. I'll accept it. I mean,
Do you think
I
that?
love the fucking golden pick. I'm going to be honest.
Mm.
Underrated also as an underrated run, Katowice 2018. Like, the players he took all the way, outstanding. I mean, sure, they are still players at that time who are capable of having big moments, who stayed composed on the big stage. I mean, Flusher was amazing that tournament as well. But you got to say, you had Crims in 2018, Flusher, JW, and Lecro, and you won a massive event over some huge names. Fantastic work, honestly. But to my final two picks, I feel like it'd be improper to go this entire draft without talking about the most iconic Katowice champions. I'm taking as my lurker 2014 Snacks. Give me the big dog. Snacks is, he eats. He eats in this time period. He is absolutely one of the two reasons that they realistically were able to be the Virtus Plow for so long. Snacks and Bialy, and I'm taking the back end of that, the close of the cleanup. The absolute god, Snacks. I mean, we're not in the Big Apple. He's not as hungry as he could be, but he is going to play an amazing game, so I'm loving this pick. And finally, I need an anchor. And yeah, the anchor one, because it's the other side of the map, it's a bit hard to define when you're talking about, like, who's an anchor, who's a lurker, like, who's generically a support. But he's right there. I'm going to take Astralis Zipnix from 2017. Because I think, honestly, this couldn't have gone better. I'm loving this. I got flavor. I got quality. I want to see who you round it out with. Because what spot do you have open? Do you have your entries? You have entry left to pick.
Yeah, I have my entry left to pick, and I've been alternating between two, but I did just realize there is one I can't pick. But so I am gonna go for 2017 Dupree as my entry player.
No, nice.
The alternate pick I had was Rain. I was going more for like the entry as in a traditional entry, and I think Rain sort of beats that. So, but yeah, Dupree as my entry player. 2017 then, since he did win it twice, 17 and 19.
Yes, there are choices.
Yeah. So yeah, Magisk and Dupree, entry and anchor. Yeah, I think lock it in. Dupree is probably one of the better. He is one of the best entry players of all time, and I think he has a spot on this all-time roster. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the pedigree. He has the event. This event was amazing for them. So no, yeah, that's really solid. Honestly, I think I've absolutely destroyed you because I got simple. That pretty much ends it. I'm gonna be honest, ends the conversation.
So wait, let's recap. You had Kerrigan, Simple, Nico,
Snacks,
Zipnix,
and Sipix.
and Snacks.
All in.
And I have. All right, I kind of. I have Golden, JW, Dupree, Magisk, and Robs. Honestly, I feel like it's a bit of an underdog roster. My roster, isn't it? Like
it is an underdog roster. It's got chip. It's got pep. It's got it's got something about it. It'd be a fun grand final. But I'm putting the entire house on my team. The entire house. I'm putting everything on it. That's the draft. Let us know in the comments who you'd have taken. If you think any of us did a better job than the other one, whose roster you think looked basically more performant. If you want to judge it based on specific Katowice performances, maybe go back into the records, see who played how before we have the big grand final coming up, and see who joins the list of potentially available players next time this happens, as if the first pick doesn't automatically become donk if they win. The Eternal Shuffle, there's been one change. Godsent have removed Rolf and signed Rusty. It's not the biggest news. Rolf, formerly of Young Ninjas, a bit of a supportive player. His numbers, therefore, not great, but, I've always thought of him like as a guy who just played a role. I never thought he was supposed to be the superstar, but clearly they've thought they could do better. They're going to bring in Rusty, who's been a bit of a journeyman in Sweden. I'm sure, Quack, you can fill us in on all the details in that sense. Like, what do you think is the inspiration behind this move? Is it just to freshen things up because they're feeling a bit stale?
I think Rusty obviously being slightly more experienced than what Rolf is. At first glance, I think it's a strange move. JW thought it was a huge mistake for Godsent to make this move. It's strange. I think pound for pound, Rolf is not much worse than what Rusty is. in terms of that support role. But what I think Golden has talked about what they're lacking, why they missed out in the major qualifiers, it's mental game. They have, I mean, difficulties. Like in the mental game, they feel nervous. And of course, at that point, maybe what you want is more experience rather than youth. Rolf was voted by the top 6 or so Swedish teams. There was a vote on Esport Studion over the new year. All of the players from those teams got to vote on each other out of the like full Swedish teams who was the best in each category. Rolf was voted best support, and I think he beat out Rusty himself for that position.
Well, that's an interesting development.
Yeah, it is interesting. So for that, I think it's an interesting move. I'm very, very curious about where Rolf lands in the end, because I still think he definitely has a spot on this top tier. Him and Gonzad looked fine, in my opinion. I think Gonzad, in the ideal world, I wouldn't change the roster. I think Rusty is still gonna work out, but I wouldn't change it like if I didn't have to. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. He could probably land pretty much anywhere in Sweden at this point. But yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, bit of a weird one, but that's pretty much all the transfer news. That's the entirety of the Eternal Shuffle this week. There's not much going on, so we have to pretty much swiftly move on to prospects of the week. I'm going to let you take off because I've seen an interesting name there, and you claim to have watched a few of his games. You got some insight, so let us know. Who have you picked?
I did watch, for once. I've actually watched my prospect. I've picked 18-year-old Ukrainian player Sedaim. Sedaim. I've heard people on the cast say Sedaim. I'm going to say Sedaim. Yeah, he joined Sprout just a couple of weeks ago, previously of the Witchers. He didn't really show up at all until he showed up on the Witchers last year with Smuya and Fear, probably primarily being Ukrainian. And he sort of filled this spot on Sprout where that sort of opened up after Zyphon left. I think he's only there as a trial signing still, technically. But it's he's been doing great. He's effectively the joint top player for Sprout right now, together with Sedjot, who is also turning out to be a bit of a like prodigy kind of player. But I did watch Slime. He had a very, very big game against Metasport. They did lose the game, Sprout. Metasport had a crazy comeback on the second map, I believe. It was a close game, but Metasport won. They are playing a rematch later today. They are playing for the Blast Showdown qualifier. Both of them are in playoffs. So just a good player. He's very much a lurky kind of player. I feel like he's almost always on the T side. I feel like he's almost always on the other end of the map. He's sort of almost playing like an old style lurk role, where like his entire team will go towards B, and then he is hanging around in Palace on Mirage. Like it's a
retro hard lurk. Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens. It's kind of rare for a Witchers player to actually end up doing something, but like historically, that sort of bench heroes / Witchers thing doesn't work out. But yeah, I'm keen to see if he does something, especially on Sprout. Sprout being sort of a talent factory at this point. I think we could say Sprout is a bit of a talent factory.
They become sort of a ground where a player will go to like kind of show off. Like they play in all of the like lower events, like not the tiny ones. They play in the real like main events of these tier 2 cups. So it's a good way to advertise yourself as a player, get noticed. And yeah, clearly another one gets picked up soon enough because Sedaim, that's been so far so good. I think I've not really got a chance to watch him play on this team, but I saw him play a little bit on the Witchers. He wasn't a bad player there, not too outstanding, but not bad. So glad he's been able to find a spot on a more structured, more permanent team, well, at least temporarily if it's a trial. And hopefully he can get fully signed on and keep developing. So great for him. Now my pick, low-key, pissed me off because I was watching the qualifier for Chengdu. If I'm not going crazy, the European close qualifier for Chengdu. And I'm sat there thinking, I really want Amcal to go through. I've been a big fan of Icy. I picked him as a prospect. I also kind of like this BetBoom roster, the way they play, the story of Nafany trying to make it back to the top after being booted unceremoniously from Cloud9, who have gone on to do literally jack all since. So this would be really cool. Instead, they face Namiga, and this player called Khan just decides to shut them down. I was like, who the earth is this guy? Like, I didn't even realize till I looked at the numbers how singularly like impactful he was being. Cause even in their other games that I didn't catch, he was putting up great numbers. He's played an amazing game, been able to keep Nemiga relevant. Him and one of his teammates, one of the riflers, I can't remember who, has also been having a great time of it in this qualifier. It's the reason they're looking pretty much set to go through. Absolutely amazing from Khan. Another young Kazakh AWPer coming up. Like, they've escaped the 100 ping gulag and they've come to mainland Europe and they're starting to look good. First Icy, now Khan. Really excited to see what the country can produce.
I remember this guy was among all of the Russian Telegram leakers. He was rumored for the new Navi Junior roster at one point or another, and apparently they passed him up. It seems.
Maybe too old.
Yeah, I mean,
for Navi academies, usually they're signing like literal children. So he is 18, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For Navi Junior. Yeah. The guy was rumored with is who actually ended up on Navi Junior.
Oh no, he's 20. Sorry, not 18. He's 20. He's even older than I thought.
Oh. Oh, all right. Yeah. Then
so yeah, a bit old for Navi. You know, they got that
probably that
Joe
Biden
just taste.
Like, okay. Yeah, I will like say for anyone who still reads Harumi and actually believes what he says, don't. He's a fucking jackass. But probably that leak was just fucking nothing in that case. But yeah, he's got good numbers. I noticed him this week as well. I didn't watch him. Nemiga kind of went. Yeah, they went a lot further than you would have thought. Nemiga. I'm surprised Nemiga are still in the sport at this point. If I'm being completely honest, they had very good form in like the online era 2020. Like there's a Nemiga sticker in the game.
Yeah.
After that, they lost. Like they just bled their decent players. Lollipop left at one point, and now it's like, you know, there's no name players. They don't really get a big ranking, but they still stick around. Are apparently doing well, and now they actually have a result to show for it. So.
Oh, they did go through, actually. I must have missed this final game.
Through.
They beat Espionage 2-0, so they dropped like one map to Espionage in the upper semis, and other than that, absolutely smashed it. So yeah, Khan and Flamus, however you're supposed to pronounce it, that's the rifler I was not finding the name of, who was also showing up, who is also young and could have been picked, honestly, for this. Like, 18 as a 19-year-old, they've got themselves quite a little young roster there, so Nemiga, just in the entire team at this point, worth looking out for.
Yeah, and that's honestly quite crazy. Like Nemiga, who have been a sub 100 ranked team for months now. Like they haven't. I haven't given them a second look a single time, just because I don't think there's been anything on here worthy of mentioning. But they're gonna play a big LAN. They're gonna play an IEM LAN. So yeah, good on them. I mean, okay, asterisk. A lot of the big teams pulled out of the Chengdu close qualifier last minute, I believe. But
yes, it was supposed to be a bigger event, but there's a conflict with some other thing I didn't read entirely. That's the sort of thing
me neither, but
I don't pay too much attention to. But yeah, there was
Big and Fnatic pulled out, and another couple of teams. Yeah,
there was other stuff that was more important. So technically, yes, it wasn't the hardest qualifier, but hey. They've made it. They're going to play at the LAN. There's going to be some real teams at the event, so they can show off what they got. It's pretty impressive. But all right, finally, this is a bit of a test run. We're going to pilot another new little segment. It's going to be an attempt for Quack, our little Swedish expert here, to fix a team. Yeah, it's Dr. Duck's diagnosis. We'll see how he does. I'm going to give him a broken team and tell him he's got something to fix here. I'm going to give him a couple also limits, so he can't just do the old Kassar trick of fire everyone and just sign his own dream team, because that would be obviously bollocks. That doesn't apply for most teams.
Is my favorite comment. Just disband is my favorite comment on HLTV forums. Always every time there's a thread, how to fix G2, just disband. Like there's no point. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting restriction.
On that note. It's not going to be a G2 fix, no. Loving a bit of bait, but it is a big team who have been really, really shit. It's Furia. I want to see you. You have a maximum of 2 moves to make. You get unlimited theoretical budget, and you can sign anyone you want who's Portuguese speaking. Unless you want to go a complete different direction in terms of you don't want to sign anyone, you want to, I don't know, send them to a therapist. I don't know what your idea is, but it's Furia. I've completely blindsided him with this, by the way. In the notes, it just says it's a secret. So here we go. Let's give you a timer on this, actually, as well. You've got 90 seconds to come out with a fully fledged plan to fix
I can't
Furia.
pad with a lot of like background and stuff. All right. So obviously we talked about a lot about Furia because yesterday they crashed out of the Blast qualifier. We actually talked briefly about Furia. Maybe this was why you didn't really go into detail, but they crashed out after losing to Medisport 2 times. I did ponder this. It's been weird. When you have the players you have Fallen, Cello, Yuri, Queserado, that on talent alone should be winning easy games. But I think this is sort of a narrative I've had with Complexity for a while as well. I'm starting to change that, but I think it's time for Art to go, or even just I think it's time for Art to go, and I also think it's time for Guerrieri to go. Does the coach count as a move?
Yeah,
Or
the coach would count as a move. Yeah.
then I'm cutting Art and Guerrieri, and I'm bringing in. Can I go like ideal, or do I need to be realistic? Like, can I go like
Oh no, there's no
best guess?
budget limit or anything like that. Like, 'cause I know that Brazilian buyouts are ridiculous, so you can assume they can
In that
afford anyone in Brazil in that sense.
in that case, I'm putting in Zeus as the coach, and fuck, it's hard to pick an Art replacement. But I'd probably put Vinny back in. Might be a weird move, but I'd probably put
Bring
Vinny
back
back in this roster.
Vinny.
I'm not sure if it's a fix. Fuck, what's my time limit? Oh, I'm starting to change my mind.
I'll give you
Fuck it,
15 more seconds.
Art is staying, Fallen is getting cut, I'm putting Henny back in.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah, Fallen is getting cut. Fuck Fallen. So
that's
my final move. I'm gonna motivate this briefly. I would love to see Vinny back in Furia, but what I think is they have not. One of Furia's biggest problems is they have not been able to match the performance of their Opper since Henny left. No one has done it. Like every Opper who has played for Furia afterwards has looked alright. Like they have on paper. It was like, yeah, these people have talent. They can probably do it. Even Junior showed good stuff before Furia. And then afterwards, it turned out he just probably couldn't handle this level. And also, like, what the fuck? He's playing on a full Portuguese or on a full Brazilian team. But let's just remember how good Safe looked before he came into Furia and how mid as fuck he looked on this team. Let's look at Fallen since joining. He's getting no numbers. Like, of course,
I mean,
Fallen.
that's not news.
Fallen into. No, it's not news, but like Fallen in 2024 probably doesn't get numbers, but what I think they need is an Opper who puts up some numbers. Henny is the last and probably only Opper for Furia who has been able to put up a respectable performance. I'm happy with keeping Art. I think Art he is not good, but if I'm limited to 2 moves, I have more doubts about Guerri, who has at this point worked with Fallen and Art without success as an IGL. So I'd be giving to give Art a new shot if he's got Zeus behind him. And I'm putting Henny back in because honestly, I don't think there's an Opper in Brazil who can sort of slide into that very niche style of play that Furia have or had. And actually make it work other than Henny. So yeah, Henny's back in. I'm going back to like vintage. It's basically the old Furia lineup with a new coach and Cello instead of Vinny, but like, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Not a bad performance, I'm gonna be honest. I thought you were going to take a different way. Honestly, I was thinking we were kind of on the same track when you're talking about like new coach cutting Art. Although honestly, the first thought I had when I did propose this was I was thinking, honestly, it's time to give up on your experienced veterans. It's time to take a bit of a rebuild. It's like when an NBA team has a guy who turns 32 and his ankle starts like being a bit iffy, but he's a big name for the team. No, trade him. Get me someone who's 21 and unproven and try again. Because you're not going to waste. Just stop wasting your time. So I'm cutting. I'd have gone nuts. I'd have cut Yuri. Like I'm done.
It's not a bad move. It's not a move.
Cut
bad
Yuri.
move. I could see that.
Bring in 2 guys from MLBR and try it with some younger players. And if that doesn't unlock Queserato 6 months later, cut him too. I don't care. Just cut him as well. I'd be cutting ruthlessly eventually if you're still giving me these results after I've made those changes. Get fucked. Go play some joke LAN in a LAN cafe in Brazil because y'all clearly don't give a shit.
I think honestly, Guerri and Art have both been here for 6 years now, and obviously Art hasn't had the caller. Like he hasn't been calling all of that time. I'm not even sure he was calling from the start, but like Fallen took it over for a while, didn't work out. Now it's back on Art. It's still not working out. I think I'd be happy to give him another shot. I know I've said this before about the JT-TC pairing as an IGL coach for Complexity and whatever other teams they've been doing. That's also like a duo that's been going for more than 6 years. And there was a point where I thought there just needs to be a bit of a new perspective here, because I can only imagine after 6 years as a coach IGL partnership, there's a lot of echo chambering about like your opinions and like changing the way you play. Furia had a great way of playing for a while until it got countered, and then they haven't been able to do shit afterwards. So at that point, I'm wondering, let's bring Zeus in, who's one of the IGLs who probably at one point tried to counter Furia. Let's bring Zeus in, bring in a new perspective, and just be like, look, here's what I would do. Let's try this. And honestly, then maybe I'd give Art another shot. I think he's a half decent player as well, like just in the servers, so I'd be happy to keep him. And Fallen, he is a good player. He's always going to be a good player.
Well, he's not been a good player for 4 years, but yeah, sure, maybe 5.
I think that sort of ability doesn't just go away like permanently. I think whether it be his own priorities, maybe he is purposefully being like, I am not going to be a star opera. I'm just going to be here and like do a bare minimum job. And like, maybe that's the point. Maybe that's what he wants to do. It's the wrong thing to do in that case.
Yes, it is. But yes, if you want to win games, it's not the right thing to do, and it hasn't been ever, really. I mean, since the days of, like, Thiflaren? Is that the last time? Just having an AWP technically there worked?
Yeah.
I can't think of anything
But I
else.
think what Henny did, I would almost say that Henny pioneered the passive AWP thing. Not he didn't, but like in a way he made it work in a way that other operas now sort of do as a meta. While Furia as a whole were still pretty aggressive, Henny's style was very much to hang back, get the odd frag. He's sort of like a Shiro style kind of player. Then they brought Junior in, who was trying to match the aggression of the team overall. And I think Safe was trying to do a lot of that as well. So it's it would be interesting to bring Henny back and see what he could do. But I could honestly see cutting Art as well. Art, there's a lot of valid criticism for Art as an IGL and as a player. I could see Yuri. Yuri is also good, but he's
he hasn't been good the last 18 months or so. From
exactly
like he's had a long downturn.
Yeah.
It's not been up and down or something. No, he's just been kind of bad for a little bit now, and I want to change things up in terms of really shake it up, like not be scared to change things. I'll take the proven historical figures, let them go have great numbers on some other Brazilian team, because that'll probably be a kick in the arse for them, because I think they have just gotten complacent. There's no other reason for this sort of extended period of nothingness from these players, so so we'll see. They probably will end up making absolutely no moves and just being shit, so that is what it is. But all right.
I mean, if you want to predict who the next Brazilian player on Fury is, let's just say Phelps. Like, it's going to be that kind of name. Coldzera makes a comeback, like something like that.
Yeah, something silly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all our topics for the week. It's been a busy week, but hey, look at us, not getting too tangential with our discussions and keeping it under an hour.
I think we are under an hour. Awesome.
Hold on. John just talked for 7 minutes about random bollocks.
I mean, I'd be hella down, but
no, that's not.
I think it's better for the show if we don't.
Let's not. Let's wrap it up here. As always, thank you for watching.
What a great episode, full of surprises. Yeah.
Members, remember you get access to the...
I'm all giddy. This has been such a good episode.
Let me finish it. Let me wrap it up. Let's not do 7 minutes of this crap. Members get access to our monthly Q&A, which we're starting to approach the midpoint of this month, aren't we? Oh, I'm say the 11th. I'm going crazy. No, so you've got a while to get to that. Members also get access to behind-the-scenes access in terms of like leaks of upcoming projects, bigger works. Honestly, anything really cool that I think I'm working on that's going to be coming, you'll probably hear about it first as a member. So be sure to join up. Leave a comment telling me why my draft was superior. Critique all our takes, because of course we love the interaction. It's great for views. And we'll see you next week. Hopefully with different environments around me, better quality mic sound and everything like that. So it should be fun. One last point, Quack.
Don't forget to plug the watch party you're doing later today.
That is true.
I
yes.
think you might want to plug that. Yeah.
Any of you who enjoy watching esports but listening to three people just bantering about random nonsense as well as having absolutely base takes, I will be on Thorin's watch party hosted by Last Free Nation. It'll be me, Thorin, and my double swing partner, Yumi, basically chatting bollocks for 3 to 5 hours. From my perspective, hopefully 3, because I've got a Super Bowl party to get to. But we'll see. If it's a 5-hour banger of a game, screw it, I'll miss the party. I don't really care. This is going to be a banger. And yeah, enjoy the game, lads. Let's go.